Welcome to Midlife Matters. I'm Marie, and each week I'm joined by my friends Julie and Mindy to talk about all the topics keeping women in the middle years up at night. Today we're giving and receiving advice. There are sticky situations that come up in all our lives, and sometimes we need help figuring out how to navigate these with wisdom and kindness. Modern Miss Manners is here to guide us through with grace and even some well-timed humor. Let's get started. Listeners, today we're going to be taking on the role of advice columnists. I think most of us enjoy giving advice and kind of fantasize about what fun it would be to have like our own column or a call-in radio show or something like that. Julie and Mindy, have you ever thought about that?
Not really.
No?
Oh, but I used to love to read the Dear Abby column.
Yes, Mindy, I was going to say that.
I love reading it. I don't know about giving it. We'll see how it goes.
Well, Dear Abby is no longer around, but there are other advice columnists for sure. And one that I do read every month is the Modern Manners Advice for Your Social Quandaries in Real Simple magazine. Have you guys ever seen this before I pointed it out for this episode?
No.
No? Okay. Well, I get Real Simple magazine because it comes through like Steve's airline points. I don't know. Somehow you can order free magazines. And so I get that magazine and I don't read it right away when it comes. But, you know, if I'm on a car trip or whatever, but I will always read the advice columns. I don't know why they always appeal to me. But we thought it would be fun to take some of my back issues, about 6 months worth, and tear out the advice column and see what advice we would give to some of these questions. And I can't wait to hear, you know, because sometimes you read your advice, you're like, oh, I mean, I see what she's saying, but is that what I would do? Or would I actually follow through on that? It's interesting.
Yeah.
And it always makes you feel a little bit better about your life. Some of these things you're like, oh, I'm glad I don't have that problem.
Exactly.
Or why is that even a problem?
Well, true. True.
Well, then, you know, do you ever question yourself like, ooh, was that one of my neighbors or family members that wrote about me?
Yes. I thought that a couple of times.
With the large dog, Julie?
Yeah. I'm going to have to tread lightly on that one.
Yes. So anyways, listeners, I'm sure that you're going to enjoy some of the questions we've picked out, and we'll see how many we can get through. But Mindy, why don't you throw out your first social quandary for us?
Okay, I love this question because this has happened to us in the past.
Okay.
All right. Someone asks, what's a tactful way to handle neighbor kids who you and your children do in fact like coming over constantly during school breaks, like without even asking if it's okay to come in? Sometimes my kids get overwhelmed by it, and I do too. But we're really good friends with the family, and I don't want to offend them.
This is such a hard one. Now, I will say that I have not lived in a neighborhood where the houses were close enough that kids really did that. I've only lived in that situation once, and my kids were still kind of small. It only happened a few times. But yet I do fantasize about living in the neighborhood where kids can do that. It's kind of like it's great to be able to do it until it's not great.
Right.
Yeah.
But what would you do?
I've seen some people have like a sign on the door. Maybe people put like rest time 1 to 3, do not ring doorbell, or, you know, whatever. Like maybe you don't mind it in the morning, but nobody should come over in the afternoon. Or maybe you could even have days of the week that it's okay. Yeah. Maybe something where you're kind of setting a boundary, but it's just in a kind way, not really personal towards anyone in particular.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I lived in a neighborhood where I saw this implemented because I lived in a neighborhood where there are lots of kids and we weren't all off at summer camp or taking exotic vacations around the globe or playing travel sports. We just kind of hung out all summer. So there were lots of kids in the neighborhood. Our next door neighbors, they had 4 kids. And the mom really had to kind of keep a tight control on that because we were just always over there knocking on her door. So she did put up the sign, and you knew that they were only free in the afternoons or in the mornings because afternoon was reading time or nap time or whatever. And they also had a pool, and we had a pool in our backyard. So you can imagine all the kids wanting to come swim. So she just developed an open swim day or days of the week. And so kids knew anybody could come that day. But then nobody came the other days. And
that's a great
we
idea.
kind of did the same thing, like because kids were over during the week. My dad liked it calm and peaceful on the weekends. So that was just the rule. I knew I wasn't going to invite kids over on the weekends.
Okay.
Oh,
so I think just to have an understanding. And then, like you said, Marie, it's not unfair or aimed at any one kid or family. It's just, this is our general rule.
Yeah. So tell us, Mindy, what did Miss Manners say?
Okay, so this hit a personal chord with me. Again, we're no longer in the stage, but you guys are both like, that's what I would do. I would put a sign on the door. And that's what we had to do actually when we lived in one neighborhood, because I had 2 kids that were old enough to play and 2 kids that would still take naps. And so I didn't want the doorbell ringing or, people coming in and out of the door. And so I ended up putting a sign on the door. And I like that it's not for any one person. So I'm curious, though. We'll see what Miss Manners says.
Okay.
She says, how to set limits when you don't want to hurt somebody. This is one of the thorniest problems of being a person, but it's so important, not just for you, but also for your children, who need to learn how to maintain their own boundaries as they grow up. Start by strategizing with the parents. We love your kids, but our family is starting to need more time to ourselves. You can say, could you help me figure out how to communicate so that I don't hurt your kids' feelings? This will put the issue on the parents' radar, and they will ideally step in to curb the unsolicited visits. If that doesn't work, encourage the neighbor kids to ring the doorbell and ask if your kids can come out and play. Then either send them all out or say no. You're sorry, it's actually not a good time.
All right. What would you do that? Would you approach the parents? That'd be like my last thing I would do.
Right. I'd rather deal with the kids.
Me too. You just hope the kids can read the sign on the door.
I know. Or I maybe do it in sticker form or I don't know what. But yes, like I would never say, could you help me strategize that your kids don't come over? Like, no.
Yeah. And I would just say, I'd tell the kids and say, now go tell your parents.
All right, Julie. Well, that was certainly a social quandary. What do you have for us?
All right, I've got one I think we've probably all had to deal with. Breaking up with your hairdresser.
Oh, say it as it's so.
I already feel nervous and I haven't even answered the question.
I know. Breakups are the worst. They're so painful.
They are.
Okay, a reader writes, I broke up with my hairdresser and feel guilty about it. What explanation, if any, do I owe her? I feel terrible lying to her and avoiding her. Is there a protocol for this?
Oh my goodness. I wish we had a real live hairdresser here to share like what I'm sure they've experienced the gamut. People never speaking to them again, people giving way too much information and explanation, somewhere in between. I don't know. I think probably I would drop off the face of the earth, even though that's the worst response ever. What would you do, Julie?
I know. I said that I would probably make my appointment elsewhere without saying a word and then change all my social and shopping habits to try to avoid ever seeing that person again.
We're so mature.
I'm in agreement with both of you. That's exactly what I would do. I would avoid them like the plague. And I would not even bring it up. If I saw them, I would smile and say hi and then run.
Okay. And then even worse is I might tell a little white lie if I had to actually say something.
What lie would you say?
Like, I'm going to try to find one closer to home. This is such a long drive. Or
we left the
state. I have a gift card.
I have a gift card.
I don't know. It's like, hey, you don't want to burn any bridges because who knows? You might want to go back.
True. Well, I can almost guarantee that Miss Manners did not say ghost him.
No, she did not, I'm sure.
Yeah, she doesn't seem to mind conflict. I have a feeling she's just addressing this head on. And we're all like scared.
Okay, she actually did have some good advice. She said, the response says, my husband, who is a massage therapist, has some good advice. If you have information that would be A, ease her mind, or B, be instructive or constructive, you should share it. She said he would want to hear if someone's needs or finances had changed, which would reassure him that the split was not about the quality of his work. Mm-hmm. Or he'd want to know if his office was too hot or too cold or inconveniently located because he could maybe adjust those elements of his practice. Mm-hmm. That a client simply had found a better massage therapist, or in your case, hairdresser, nope. The haircuts just aren't that great is a perfectly legitimate reason to move on, but you should keep that information to yourself.
Right.
Send an explanatory text or email if there's anything to say that's actionable or comforting. If you just want to clear your conscience, then don't. And I agree. I would never say, I just don't like my hair, or, you're not doing a good job. There's just no need. And I did ask a hairdresser once, that question. And it wasn't because I was leaving. I was just curious.
Right.
And she said, it is no big deal. I don't take it personally. People come and go. And I bet a lot of them do think that way because, it has to happen a lot.
It does. It does.
I just feel so loyal to people. It's just hard.
It is. Well, I've moved enough. I can just say, oh, I'm sorry, I'm moving.
You can, and they believe it.
I really am sorry. But there is one girl that I drove from Pennsylvania to get my hair done with her in Knoxville, even after we moved to Pennsylvania. She was so good.
Oh, now that's a compliment.
Yes. Yes, because I had nightmare experiences up in Pennsylvania. So I had to avoid those people.
I hope they don't listen to the podcast.
You don't know who you are because I tried several. Okay.
Since it's a breakup, I guess you could say, can we just be friends?
Right. It's not you. It's me.
Okay, well, here's another one that I know listeners can relate to, but it's really not very easy to give advice about. But I'm curious to see what you guys would do because this has happened to all of us. Maybe not this exact scenario, but something similar. So this reader writes, my husband's sister and her family moved to our small town. I introduced my sister-in-law to my social circle, and now I worry that my friends like her more than me. I feel jealous when we're all together and when I hear about the things they've done without me. How should I deal with this situation and my insecurities around it? Ooh, I think we can all relate. I mean, how many times have we hesitated to introduce a friend to other friends because you think, well, they'll probably actually like each other better than they like me. And not maybe but maybe they'll get along too well. You know what I'm saying?
They'll steal them.
Yes. That's right.
Well, what advice would you guys give to this reader?
It's real. It's a real thing, but I just don't know that I could say anything to somebody about that.
Right? Yeah.
I am careful if I meet a new friend through a friend. I would never feel comfortable calling that new friend without including the one that introduced us.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
No, it definitely does. Like, I probably wouldn't feel comfortable doing it maybe ever, but at least for a very, very long time.
Right. At least initially. Yeah.
How about you, Mindy? Have you experienced this?
I've experienced so many different relationship things with moving and making new friends. And I'm always the new friend.
Well, you've got a new perspective then.
I do. At the same time, I always am moving into a place where people have their friends. And so as the new person, you instinctively, and I've told the boys this, you can instinctively know if somebody has space for you in their life or not. And you can kind of feel if somebody feels territorial, if they're protective. And I don't want to barge in on that. I just know the Lord's going to provide me with other friends. If there's no room in this social circle, I'll find my own. So I think that I would tell the girl to not worry. I would say it's okay. Just like when you have more children, you always have more love in your heart to include more people. However, your friends are your friends, and just because they like someone new doesn't say anything less about you. You're still special. They're just including somebody else. I definitely like one-on-one relationships, and I'm not always a group person. So I could see that you would be, sad if you got left out. Right. But I would just say your friends are your friends. You don't have to worry about that.
All right, I have a real life example. A friend of mine at her church was having a little trouble making friends. And after church one day, a group had decided to go out, and she wasn't in the conversation. So she would have normally felt very fine about not going out with this group. But one of them texted and asked if they could park in her driveway because it was near the restaurant they were going.
Uh-oh.
And she wasn't included. So she confronted them and said, that's really hurtful that you're going someplace that you want to use my driveway for, but you didn't include me. And her answer was, I think it's really unrealistic for you to expect to be included in everything.
Well, they're both right.
Yeah, but would you have the audacity to ask somebody to park in their driveway and not include them?
No. I think you got to keep kindness at the front.
Yes.
You got to think about people's feelings. Like if you're going to ask to use something of somebody's, they need to be included. Otherwise, don't ask them.
Right.
Oh, that was hurtful.
That does seem hurtful. Yeah.
Wow.
Well, those are certainly some quandaries, and let's see what Miss Manners says. Okay, so she starts out with confession. I hate hearing that any of my friends have done anything without me. It's totally normal to feel jealous sometimes, and I admire your honesty about it. This is doubtless one of the qualities that make you a treasured friend. I'm sure your generosity, the way you're so inclusive of your sister-in-law, is another. We crave the company of different people at different moments. Our party friends one day, our reflective friends another, and you don't need to be everything to everyone. Consider spending more one-on-one time with the nearest and dearest of this group, and it will help remind you that despite your slight crisis of confidence, your friends aren't going anywhere. This is kind of similar to what you said, Mindy, where you can have some one-on-one time and maybe you're part of the group and maybe you're just,
right,
mixing it up a little bit.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. That's tough, though.
Yeah, I don't think there's any one, here's a piece of advice, and if you follow it, you'll never experience this again, because we all experience this.
Oh, yeah, gosh. And different friends mean different things to you, I think. Like she said, you've got your party friends, your reflective friends, your
true.
Friends you could cry with, friends that only want happy. You've got to have them all.
Well, and anytime you're in a relationship with anyone, there's going to be conflict. I mean, it's a given.
Mm-hmm.
So,
It's a tough one. All right, Mindy, what is another social quandary that you've brought to us today?
All right. I really love these neighbor issues. And so I'm going back to the neighborhood.
Okay.
Someone asks, my neighbor constantly comments on what she sees. I saw your lights on in the night. Did the babies have a hard time sleeping? Or your car hasn't moved in about a week. Everything okay? It feels like a violation of privacy. How can I explain that her observations make me uncomfortable?
Oh, you guys, that would feel uncomfortable. You'd feel like somebody's watching me.
Yes.
I would love a neighbor like that.
Oh, you would, Julie?
Because my neighbors just kind of don't, I haven't had a lot of close contact with neighbors. So I would feel like, hey, they care. They're watching out for me.
I've been dead in my house for a week. Nobody knows.
Right. Something bad's going on over here. Find out.
There's got to be a happy medium for sure. Yeah. I mean, I think we've all watched TV where we see the old lady across the street keeping tabs on what all the different neighbors are doing. And
Mrs. Kravitz.
Yeah. We don't want to be that old lady, but we do want to feel like our neighbors kind of know and look out for us too. I don't know what I would do if I felt weird about it. I mean, how do you nicely say, quit telling me what I've been doing?
Yeah. Because I know you're not going to stop watching. Just stop telling me about it.
I was going to say, if it's not, they're not going to quit what they're doing. So I would just have to listen and say, thank you.
Thank you. And then draw your curtains closed earlier.
Yeah.
Build a big fence? I don't know.
Only go out at night.
Clean out your garage and start parking the car inside.
Yes. Well, Mindy, what did Miss Manners tell us we should do?
Okay, let's see what she says. My friend once walked into a cafe and saw displayed there a portrait of himself in his bathrobe, sleepily making coffee painted by a neighbor he'd never met. My advice, get curtains. Your neighbor might be a busybody, or she might imagine she's helpful. The unwritten contract between neighbors is that we pretend there's more privacy than there is. We don't say, I saw your Prozac bottle in the recycling. Are you okay? If your neighbor has a sense of humor, try a hint like, sheesh, remind me never to walk around naked. Or be more direct and say, I'd love to think no one's watching me. If you suspect that her transgressions are inadvertent and she'd be mortified if you spoke of them, then cover the windows. And know your car is fair game for commentary.
That's a pretty fair answer. It's kind of try to joke about it. Try maybe to remind her of the social contract.
No, you're right.
Even if we were invited into someone's home, we don't go to the bathroom and then come out and say, oh, I saw you take such and such when I opened your medicine cabinet. Or, we have a social contract that we ignore things that are not our business,
Yeah.
Yes.
So
You still see them, but you ignore them.
Right. There may not have been any toilet paper and you might have opened up the cabinet, but you only comment on the toilet paper.
That's exactly right.
That is the social contract that we live.
I did like kind of her joking comments. It's a little passive aggressive, but I think completely appropriate in this situation.
Yes, it might be the only choice to really make your point.
Yes.
All right, Julie, what else did you bring for us?
All right, here's one on a little somber note. I recently had a miscarriage, and 2 of my friends are pregnant. On our monthly video calls, we spend a good chunk of time talking about baby bumps and nurseries and all the other baby things. I end up feeling uncomfortable and sad. Should I stop attending these calls or change my mindset?
This is a hard one.
Yeah.
And I think it depends on what that good chunk of time means, because I think in every relationship, again, somebody's always going to be on a mountain, somebody's going to be in a valley. So it's careful treading, when you know that one of your friends is hurting, and if you're not, or if you're the one hurting and they're not, because at some point you're going to be the one on the mountain and they're going to be the one in the valley, and the roles will be reversed, and you still want your friends. If these people are worth having, then it's worth walking these hard roads or good roads with them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know. First of all, I would say to the person that asked the question is, do they know that you've had a miscarriage?
Yeah.
First of all, because it would be totally natural for them to want to talk about their pregnancies.
Yeah.
So first and foremost, don't assume that they're just being unkind, because they may not know. But if they do know, I know that would be really, really hard to hear about all the baby things. And I know that this can be true in a lot of different situations in life. And I am finding myself in that situation right now. I don't know, just hearing about somebody's 50th anniversary or travel plans for the future or growing old together or talking about some future plan is just hard for me right now. But I also don't want to be the friend that nobody wants to be around because she's always going to get hurt by it, So I think a good compromise might be to let them know that you're struggling right now,
right,
because of what you're going through, and maybe let them get on the call first and say, I want you guys to talk about your baby stuff. And then you join in a few minutes later after, and that's probably just going to be for a season, it's not going to be forever.
Right.
And I just think that they would probably be more than happy to do that, because you don't want your friends walking around on eggshells either.
Right.
Right. And they may think, well, she probably doesn't want us to walk around on eggshells, so we should talk about what we normally would talk about. But I think if the friend shares, this topic is just so sensitive and hurtful to me right now that I need to kind of distance myself from it. I think the other friends would follow suit and be understanding of that. They just may not know. We don't want to treat her differently.
Right.
Because then sometimes people are like, well, don't treat me any differently. Maybe the friend that had the miscarriage also needs to share where she is with it,
Right. Help them understand what she's going through.
Right.
I don't know, because my first inclination is to I know I would probably just withdraw from the group. That would be the easiest thing to do. But if these are good friends and you want to talk to them, I think there would be a way that you could work through it and they would totally understand.
Agree.
Well, what did Miss Manners say about that, Julie?
She said, I'm sorry, I miscarried too, and I found it both intensely private and weirdly public, like the worst of both worlds, and that was before video calls. I can only imagine how it feels to be so captive and visible during these heartbreaking conversations. Your most important job right now is to take care of yourself. If you can guide the group to become a better support system for you, great. I'm really struggling, you might say. I'm happy for you, but I'm sad. I'm so sad too. Can you help me? Ideally, this will cue them to be more sensitive and they will make space for your sorrow. But grief is a wild animal and it's not likely to be tamed by tinkering with the content of these calls. If you need to step back for a while, that's okay. Your friends will understand.
Yeah.
I notice a trend here. She seems to put the solution in the other people's courts almost all the time, bring it up and then see if they'll change or make an accommodation, Let people know and then let them decide if they can do anything about it, you know?
Right,
Yeah.
right. All right. Well, I guess a lot of people have problems with their neighbors because here's another neighbor. Okay. Our neighbors are obsessed with lawn maintenance. Whenever they cut the grass, which is often, they get out the leaf blower all the time, and they also cut or blow the wide strip of our lawn that borders their driveway. So half our yard has grass and leaves, and the other half is bare, and it drives us crazy. What can we do? Okay, I just cannot relate to this person's problem. Like, we're always
They're doing you a favor.
I know. We're always the least well-maintained yard in any neighborhood that we live in. That if someone was blowing the leaves off half my yard, I'd be happy about it. That's half the work that I have to do. Right, I don't know. I don't know if I see this as a problem, but I do know that yard work can be sensitive. Like, I can remember when when Abigail and Davis were little and we lived in a neighborhood with houses closer together, and I felt like every nap time the guy behind me was retired and he would get out his leaf blower and get every leaf off his yard. It drove me insane. I felt like his wife must kick him out every afternoon, and that was like what he chose to do during the hours of 1 to 3.
Oh my goodness.
I know we had neighbors that had a riding lawnmower for their backyard, but they only used a push mower on their front because he didn't like the weight of the tractor on his grass in the front.
Oh, wow.
And so if I ever kind of went over the border on my riding mower, I was smashing his grass, you know. They never really said anything except for one time they said, well, you know, we only use the push mower because... So I think that was kind of letting me know,
hint.
Yeah. Did you take the hint, Julie?
Yes. But it's really hard because it's one of those things where there's no fences. You really don't know where the line is. So I just kind of mow where I've always mowed, or like mow after they mow, so I know where the line is, you know.
I feel like those little subtle hints are probably things that I've gotten over the years, and I may or may not have even picked up on them at the time. Like, I think a few neighbors of ours have commented over the years, boy, you guys always have a lot going on in your yard. Meaning, you know, you have a swing set and a lacrosse goal and a bunch of riding toys and a this and a that. And it's like, hey, I have 5 kids. What am I going to do? Like, yeah, there's going to be a lot going on in my yard.
Well, okay. So I immediately thought about some houses that we used to pass in Atlanta. And it was very memorable because between these two houses that were close to each other, there was a privacy fence. And then there was every 2 feet, there was a no trespassing sign.
Oh,
like stapled to the fence, like showing to their neighbors. It was so obnoxious. You could tell that they had like border wars with their neighbor. And they had
a strong message.
Yeah, they'd put up a privacy fence and posted no trespassing, like every 2 feet on the fence, all the way down. And so, I mean, you hate to resort to something like that because obviously your neighbors, you can't get away from each other.
Yeah.
But, you know, you could stop mowing your whole lawn, and maybe the people that love to mow the lawn, maybe they'll just pick up the whole thing.
I know. I'm sure these people think they're helping.
They're giving a subtle hint by, we've mowed our lawn now. Hey, it's your turn.
Well, that's true.
We also had a neighbor. This was not so subtle a hint. It was on the other side of our driveway. We have a strip that's kind of like the one she described here, that it's a strip of grass that is ours, but it's small, that we have to mow. And I always just mowed it the same way, kind of off of where the neighbors mowed it, you know. Well, then those people moved and we got new neighbors. So then they didn't know where the line was.
Oh.
So I guess they thought I was mowing too far over. So they had the surveyor come out and put stakes up to mark off their lot. And I thought, that was just so weird. Like, why didn't you just ask me? Like, because we knew where the line was because we had moved our mailbox to that side of the driveway and we had to had that measured, you know?
Yeah.
But I just thought those big stakes with the orange flags were sending a strong message. Don't mow across the line.
Okay. Well, since we've moved and dealt with border wars quite a bit, to head that off, we have gone to our neighbor's house and said, hey, we're so-and-so, if they had not already come over or whatever. And we would say, hey, we're new. we don't know where the line is. Would you mind like showing me like where's our yard? Where's your yard? Kind of what are you used to? And really just using that as an opportunity to get to know them. Now, if you've lived there 25 years, it's really hard to restart a relationship. So
Right.
at that point, you just need to put in a shrub garden.
Right.
But that's a great idea, Mindy. Just get it settled from day one.
Day one, work that out.
Yeah.
Well, let's see what Miss Manners says. She says lots of shared space issues boil down to other people's baffling differences from us. And we are always baffled, like, who would do that? You know, we always act like no one would do that.
I know.
Your neighbors likely imagine they're doing you a favor mowing and blowing part of your lawn, even though it's creating an annoying Frankenyard. That's kind of a funny way of saying it. You're so nice to try to help us with our lawn, you can say, but believe it or not, we like it better when it's all consistently wild or natural. If you would please just leave it, that would be great. If there's any doubt about whose part is whose, you can put in stakes or plant some delineating shrubbery. Our own neighbor did this. I know. Our own neighbor did this when it turned out we were inadvertently cutting some of his grass, Julie, and we were grateful for the visual cue. I find it hard to believe she was grateful. Did she not even take the slightest bit of offense? Because I don't know.
Great. You know, I just think I so desperately want good relationships with my neighbor. I don't want to. You have every right to say that to someone,
right?
But I don't know that I would.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. And I don't know that I would say, you're so nice to try and help us with our lawn, but believe it or not, we like it better when it's consistently wild and natural.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
We like our nasty lawn.
We like our unmowed grass. And
we
weeds.
want it to look terrible, so leave it.
Yeah. So get over it.
Oh my goodness.
I would go out and say, you missed a spot.
That's true. All right, Mindy, what's your last social problem that you've brought for us?
Okay, you dog lovers. It used to only be Julie, but now it's Marie too. So I'm going to say both of you. We have a person that has written in and said, we spent a weekend at the home of close friends who have a black lab. My children, who are 1 and 3, are afraid of large dogs. Our stay was miserable. The kids were scared the whole time, and they clung to me and cried whenever the dog came around. My friends put their dog outside for a few hours, but then kept making comments about how sad he looked. What should we do the next time we visit?
This is so hard because I feel like before I got my dog, I'd have a different answer than I do right now.
Yeah, I want to hear it.
My twins, my numbers 4 and 5, they were really afraid of dogs. I don't know why. They'd never been bit. My dad had a dog ever since they were little, a very, gentle dog, but they used to go, no doggy, no doggy. Like even when we would go over to my parents' house and it was a black lab. But they just were afraid. And so my parents would have to put the dog in the laundry room or, always have to be around the dog. And it was annoying, because the twins would just really react poorly. And they were probably about that age, around 1. But when they were around, I don't know, maybe they were 4, Julie. I think you might remember this. We were over at the King's house and Charlie, I think it might have been Charlie, or maybe it was your previous black lab, Abby, got out and came pouncing towards them. And they start backing away, and you guys call the dog back, but the girls go, some people don't like dogs. and Julie and John, I can't remember what you said, but I know you brought it up several times laughing over the years.
As a dog owner, I have voluntarily boarded my dog when people are coming over, like to stay for the night. I think when Molly got married, we had Colin's family come and stay. There was going to be a lot of people in the house and we were going to be busy. So I did board the dog. It was just easier. But I think if you're going to someone's house, I don't know, staying there for free, I don't know that you have a right to ask them to change up the environment of the house. Right. And I'm not talking about, hey, could you turn the air down or up? Like nothing like that. But like boarding a dog is very expensive. And sometimes the dogs don't do well. Like they don't like it, so people don't board their dogs. So I don't know. I would just try to keep the dog maybe diverted somewhere else, in the house if it was a problem with the kids, like you could put it outside, put it in another room. But I don't know, with a 1 and 3-year-old, that's kind of tricky. Like maybe you just need to stay somewhere else for a while.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I had a friend once when my kids were little, and I, at the time, didn't have a dog, and I'm sure didn't act like I liked dogs either. And one time she kind of called me on it and said, like, basically, love me, love my dog. And it really was kind of like, okay, people love their animals, and
Right.
nobody wants subtle hints that you don't like their animals. So if you don't like their animals, keep it to yourself. And if you need to stay somewhere else, then you'll have to deal with it.
But on the other hand, like if your dog is like my dog and wildly uninhibited and disobedient, like I wouldn't expect somebody to just deal with that. You know, like we do put Charlie up, or
Julie's like, I know my dog's a problem.
Yeah, like I wouldn't expect someone to just sit on my couch while my dog licked him in the face, or you know what I mean?
Well, her dog wasn't a problem. It was more just that I consistently, I don't know what I did, but I was obviously giving off vibes that I wasn't in love with the dog.
She was like, Marie, I like all your kids, so you need to like my dog.
Right. Well, Mindy, you don't have a dog, so what would you say to this person?
Okay. Well, I was thinking of all the miserable weekends I had with a 1 and 3-year-old, and it didn't matter if the people had a dog, because anytime you're traveling with a 1 and 3-year-old, like you're not sleeping, the arrangements are awful. Like I was so scheduled with my children at those ages that I'm like, look, I don't care where you're going or what they have in their house. It's going to be miserable. So first of all, there's that. Like your kids just need to get a little older. And how often are you traveling to that person's house with a 1 and 3-year-old? Like, how often are you going to stay there? You know what I mean? Like,
that's true.
Visiting.
Yeah.
You may not visit till the kids are like 5 and 7. And at that point, your kids may love the dog.
It'll be totally different.
I'm just like, chalk it up to the 1 and 3-year-old. But with, again, any relationship, there's going to be conflict. And I think it just for both people, I like hearing both of your perspectives, but I think that the host and the guest should both try to find some way to have a meaningful weekend together. And it takes two to make a thing go right.
Well, what did Miss Manners say, Mindy? Okay. We all want to know.
Okay. All right. Miss Manners, she says, your kids are in a hard phase, but it's an easy one to be transparent about. We love you guys, but as you know, the kids are afraid of your dog. Do you have any ideas to make the visit better for everyone? If they're unwilling to put the dog outside for long stretches, or if they continue to act aggrieved about it, then consider staying in a hotel or Airbnb if you have the means to do so. Your kids can't help being afraid, and it's not fair to put them in that situation. It's definitely wise to have a backup plan, but then children change so quickly. My guess is it might not even come up again.
Oh, that was a good one then. Mindy, you were spot on.
See how she kind of put it off on the
She
other
did.
people
She
there?
said, like, the host, you should say to the host, do you have any ideas how we can make this better? No. How about you ask yourself how you can make it better? Like, I just wouldn't take that approach.
No, I wouldn't either. I would go to a hotel. Again, it's going to be miserable. You have a 1 and 3-year-old trying to sleep someplace different.
I know. Well, and we're talking about animals that, like, they're not getting bit or, you know, but like maybe with more frequent exposure, the kids will get over this fear too, you know. So
yes. Well, I hate to say it, I'm not a 1 or a 3-year-old, but I'm actually fearful of large dogs.
Okay.
And so I do understand. I was chased by a large dog when I was young, and I know it's irrational. So I see a large dog, and especially if they charge at me, it scares me to death. And I have to tell myself, like, try not to react, but my heart rate goes up. Like, and so when people are careful with their dogs and they just hold them back, dogs are so happy. They want to kiss you all over the place. And it's only like a big dog's jumping in my face, and like, it scares me to death.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry, Mindy.
No, but like, I know that once the dog gets to sniff me, if I can pet it and say hello.
Yes.
I've had to develop some skills to handle.
Yes.
They're people's kids. Like,
yes. Yes. And you've stayed at Julie's home with Charlie, and everything turned out fine.
It was great. He was not scary to me. He's a friendly little friend.
He's a friendly bear cub.
Really big friend.
And not everybody's going to like my kids. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think you should push your kids on people, and I don't think you should push your dogs on people either.
Could you lock your kids in the closet while we're there?
Yeah.
I mean, I would really like to sometimes.
Sure.
Mom, I'm 13. No, it's nap time.
That's funny. That's funny. All right, Julie, what is your last social problem that you have brought to us? Oh, I think I might know which one you picked, but you go ahead.
All right, here's a touchy one. We purchased a beach house as a second home for ourselves and our 5 kids. Now we're constantly fielding questions from family and friends about using it when we're not there. We don't want to open it to guests. We explained that we don't have maid service or rental liability insurance. How do we deal with these requests without sounding uncharitable?
Ooh. One, what a great place to be to have this problem. But
Wow,
2,
yeah.
I can see how it would be a problem.
Right.
Yeah.
I know that I feel reluctant to even ask other people if I could use their beach
Yeah.
houses. So even if they offered it, they'd probably have to offer it a few times before I would take them up on it. So
Right.
I don't know like who these people are that are saying, hey, can I use your beach house this weekend? I don't know. Maybe
I bet it's family. I bet it's extended family.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, it could be.
Yeah, this is kind of cringy because
It
I
is.
have asked, like, with a friend of ours, several friends of ours have bought beach houses, and I will usually say, "Are you planning to rent it out, or is this just a personal private home?" Really, just curious, not because I want to stay there, but just curious.
Mhm.
And I don't go like, "Hey, you got the 4th of July weekend open this year," or
Right.
like that. But so I think I would just state, "Hey, this is just our private home. We're not renting it out."
Right.
But one solution, if it was family that was continually feeling like they had a right to it, you might offer like a standing week a year that it's open. Like just
Right.
say, this week or 2 are open for family to come. And that might be a way to.
And would the homeowner be on the premises?
I guess that's up to you. It's just,
Okay.
with the whole renter liability and all that, I don't know. I would probably
Right.
want to be
Right.
if I was responsible for it,
Yeah.
But I think that would be nice to offer it to family for a
Yeah.
limited time and know that that's just it. Kind of like with the kids knocking on the door. Like, we are going to offer it, but it's just this time. Like so you'll always know.
Yeah, I don't know. I never really thought about the rental because if it's just family using it, do you technically need to call that renter's insurance, or would that just be like if you let anyone stay in your home for a weekend because you were out of town? I don't know. I never even thought about that.
I know.
I guess it's just your relationship with them. Like, if something gets broken, how are you going to deal with it?
True.
That's true. That's true. Because I feel like I would agree with them. I'd be like, yeah, it is a really great thing. And then, like Julie said, I would say, we're just not renting it out right now. But if you want to troubleshoot, if you decide that it's family, like you're not going to rent it out to people you don't know, but maybe people you do know, maybe you research and find a great cleaning company and say, we just asked for a small fee to cover the cleaning. Or, you know what I mean? Like, you just try to find a way to handle it. But that's a slippery slope. And I'm not sure what family would continue to push and push to stay in a property that's not yours. I don't quite get that. So I think I would just really respect their boundaries. So it sounds like a relationship that, they don't want those people there.
Yeah. And if I was asking that, I don't know, I just would feel so afraid that something would happen that would damage our relationship that it almost wouldn't be worth it. I'd rather just stay in an unknown place. Because things do go wrong. We've had things break in the house or, or something go bad. And then can you really complain if it's free or, the air conditioning goes out at the beach. What do you do if it's family?
Yeah, I will just say that I think you view this differently when you are younger versus older, because when we were early married and didn't really have much money to spend on vacation, I know that we asked my aunt and uncle several times to use their second cabin that they have, and they were very gracious and let us. And they have said since then, hey, anytime you want to use it. But I think now that I've gotten older, I realize what you are asking people. And I didn't realize it as much when I was younger. So it could be the age of these people that are asking too. They just may not understand like all the time and work and maintenance it takes to maintain a second home and all the things that can go wrong. And they just may not be at that point in their life where they really understand that.
How much responsibility it really is.
That is a really kind way to look at that, Marie. I think that's nice to give them the benefit of the doubt.
Well, I do think you don't know. Like, if you're not even a homeowner yet, you might not even understand that.
I know. What about the people that know and they ask?
Well, that's a different story.
Hey, if they have the guts to ask you, then you need to have the guts to say no.
Oh, well, tell us what Miss Manners said, Julie.
I need some help.
Miss Manners says, the liability issue is your easiest out here. We don't actually have the right insurance for that. Done. And nobody needs to take it personally. But what if you stretch toward expansiveness? You could ask guests to contribute to the insurance, request that they hire and pay for a cleaning service, and leave a list, as many Airbnb hosts do, of housekeeping tasks. If all this serves as a deterrent, well, perfect. But if someone you trust is still desperate for an affordable vacation that you could help provide, you totally don't have to, but maybe it would be worth it.
Yeah, well, that's a good way. I mean, at least she didn't put it on the guest this time. Well, she did kind of put it on the guest, but it was legitimate type things that the guest should be doing.
Yeah, like if it's worth it to them to pay for the cleaning and contribute in some way. Yeah.
It's got to be hard to own a beach house or a lake house or anything that people really want to go to, and like, or, I've heard you say before, Mindy, like when you lived in Nashville, one summer you had like every single weekend filled up with people wanting to come and visit Nashville and stay at your house.
That was running through my mind as that question came up, because our home has been used a lot. And yes, there was one summer that I was overwhelmed.
Well, Mindy, little did you know, all you needed was to get a dog.
Just get a big dog. To do. I know
that would have solved everything.
I know.
An out of control
And
dog.
I think even if you're only offering to stay for a weekend, in your mind, you might think, oh, it's 2 nights, but they may have had 6 weekends before you. You know what I'm saying? So yes, it's just, you don't know what's going on behind. These people may have fielded 4 other requests before you asked to stay in their beach house,
Yeah, there's something about living in Nashville too. I will say that everyone comes through Nashville. So we solved that problem by moving.
Or what you could do is have so many kids that you never have any guest bedrooms. That would be my situation. Right? If you come and stay with us, you have to sleep like in a twin bed and share a bathroom with 5 kids. So we hardly ever get anyone asking.
I did have somebody give me that advice one time. We were outfitting our guest room in the basement. She said, don't get a big king size bed down there. People will never leave. She said, you need to put a futon in there and make them share a bathroom. And I was like, she's got a good idea. I can kind of get that. But like my hospitality bent, and each of us have talked about hospitality. Like we want to provide a good place, but there are those people that will take advantage. So it's really hard to know, how to do that.
Right.
I want to say to any listeners out there, I've never felt taken advantage of. If my friends are listening, I've always enjoyed every visit.
Julie, you're making me feel bad.
No, I just don't want anybody to think, oh, I've been to Julie's house. And
no, nobody should take
I don't have the
anything
number
personal.
of guests. I don't have the number of guests you've had.
I have loved all of my guests.
But maybe not just 6 weekends in a row.
Yeah.
6 weekends in a row. That was a unique situation. It has never happened again. I don't even know how in the world that happened that summer. It just did. And Marie, you still remember, which is so funny.
I think you might have mentioned on the podcast before. Okay, to end our social quandaries, I just had to read these 2 that were about mother-in-laws because I was like, really? Like, does someone actually do this? Okay, so this reader writes in, I wrote my mother-in-law a birthday card telling her how much I appreciate her. In her response, she wrote, the admiration for many things, and then in parentheses, not everything but who's perfect, ? In parentheses, flows both ways. The rest of her letter was lovely. Do I respond to this slight? Am I being too sensitive? Oh my goodness, I don't think she's being too sensitive. Who would write, I admire you. I mean, you're not perfect, but I still admire you. Who would say that?
Yeah. She's not being overly sensitive, but I don't know what good it would do to say, well, hey, what are the imperfections? You don't want to know. I mean,
Right.
I don't know.
You're stuck with her. Like there's nothing you can do but pray for that woman, because that woman obviously has issues, and you're going to have to be the bigger person. You're going to have to love your husband, and the mother-in-law is who she is, but that doesn't mean you have to change who you are. And I think you kill her with kindness.
Yeah. Yeah. I liked what Miss Manners wrote. She wrote, I wouldn't bother responding to the parenthetical diss, but you're not being too sensitive. Her comment was unkind and comically unconstructive. She says, go ahead and laugh behind her back, because what else can you do? Besides creating a line of passive-aggressive greeting cards like, the gift wasn't our favorite, but thanks anyways. Mother-in-laws are notorious for backhanded compliments. She probably can't help herself or hasn't tried to. Enjoy what you enjoy about her, including the mutual, if unqualified admiration, and let the rest go. Okay, I like this advice. I don't like that she just lumps all mother-in-laws into being notorious for backhanded compliments. I certainly hope that I'm not handing out backhanded compliments, and I don't think that we help society by, putting down mother-in-laws.
That.
Yeah, perpetuating that myth. But in this case, this mother-in-law really was being kind of backhanded.
Yeah. She's not being nice.
No.
Totally uncalled for.
Yeah. Okay, here's a funny one too. Okay, I don't know. I've been married to a wonderful man for 21 years. Every holiday and birthday, our birthdays are 2 days apart, my in-laws send us each a check. My husband's check is always for 5 times as much money as mine. I think this is incredibly rude and hurtful. Why don't they just total the amount and give us both half? Do I dare mention it to them? I don't want to seem ungrateful. Who would do this? Who would do this?
There's nothing you can do about it. I think you on the side, you go to your husband and you're like, hey, you're going to give me some of that?
Yeah. I try to go overboard, like on the birthday and Christmas list. Maddie's going to get a little bit more monetary value than Davis so that she can never write this into any magazines. She can never write that my mother-in-law gave more to my husband than me.
Right. Plus, it's easier to buy for girls anyway.
For real.
And then to be so consistent about always making it 5 times as much, you might as well just write, I love my son 5 times as much as I love you.
Right.
I mean, does it need to be stated so blatantly in the form of a check?
Especially with a cash gift. If it was an object, you might give the husband what he wants, and it might not be very much, as far as the value. But with cash, I mean, that's just
and
so
it's 2 days
obvious.
apart, so it really is a slap in the face because it's so close. But that may change over the years.
Well,
maybe
they've been married 21 years, Mindy.
I'm hoping on their 50th wedding anniversary, that maybe
out a little.
Yeah. Yes. Oh my goodness. So let's hear what she says. She says, here's my advice. Be grateful, be annoyed, let it go.
Yeah.
Is the asymmetry weird? Totally. But are parents-in-law often weird? They are. Again, quit lumping us all as weird. I don't appreciate that. But by the time you came along, these folks were probably already in the habit of gifting their son generously. Maybe they tacked you onto some lesser girlfriend list and then never adjusted for 21 years.
Awful.
I know. Or they like to imagine that you don't pool resources. Or the smaller amount is meant to suggest, irritatingly, that you're still not quite family after 21 years. If there are other spouses you can gossip with, have at it. In any case, write a thank you note. Remind yourself to do better if you're ever the one writing checks.
It's true. It's true. You do better.
Right. I don't think you're going to be mailing Abby a 5 times the amount check as Joseph, Mindy.
No, not at all.
All right, listeners, we hope that you have enjoyed these social quandaries. Because I think that we all, one, we're like, are these really problems? So glad this is not me. But also, I think we can learn from this advice or learn something. I know that I have learned a lot over advice columnists over the year, even though I'm not the one that is written in. But listeners, we would absolutely love to know what your social quandaries are. Please email us or message us on Instagram at Midlife Matters Podcast. Tell us what social quandaries you're struggling with. Maybe we can poll the group. We won't use your name, but there's probably a lot of social quandaries out here that we need some help with. What do you guys think about that, Julie and Mindy?
Yeah, I hope we've earned your trust today.
Yes, exactly.
With our sage advice.
We'll give you the snarky answer and the nice answer.
Yeah. Right.
And we'll totally relate with you.
It's happened to all of us.
Yes.
Yeah.
Julie and Mindy, thanks so much for joining me.
That's great. This was fun.
Bye.
Okay,
Bye,
bye.
girls.
We're so happy you joined us today. You can find the show notes for this episode at midlifematterspodcast.com. Also, please tell a friend about the show and help them hit the free subscribe button on their favorite podcast app. Be sure to follow us on Instagram at Midlife Matters Podcast. That's where we post pictures and stories about all the things we talk about in each episode. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.